Hi, it's Lori from Laura's World. We are starting out a brand new year, 2022. A girl I met on Instagram. This girl is so amazing. Honest to goodness. She is a host of a podcast, one of the very first podcasts I listened to called Soberoso. It's so cool because she talks about everything, recovery, mental health, sobriety, guided meditations, you name it. She's talking about it. And I can't wait for you guys to meet her. Really a sweetheart. She's lovely, beautiful, inside and out. And I can't wait for you guys to meet her. So let's see what she has to say. There she is. Hi, gorgeous.
How are you, Lori?
I am so good. I'm so excited to see you.
Yay.
I was just telling everybody that your podcast was it was the first podcast about recovery that I ever listened to.
Really? That's so
I
sweet.
I swear. Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. And welcome.
My pleasure. You know what? I think I mentioned I don't do video often, but here I am.
I love it. Thank you for doing it. I appreciate it very much. Welcome to Laura's World. I honestly, Dora, the thing about your podcast is that it's got a little bit of everything. A little bit of something for everybody. It's not just about recovery. It's about mental health, guided meditations. There's a little something for everybody. And I think that's what I love so much.
Thank you. That's the idea. And it's also, I think I've got a few episodes up there for family members of the alcoholic and the addict. I know I had one guest on there that talked all about fetal alcohol syndrome in pregnancy, which was very interesting. And I watched a little bit of one of your previous interviews before I came on the show today. And you mentioned that you like to go into these interviews without really knowing the background. And I do too. And a lot of the people that I have on board and on my show, I'm learning and hearing their stories for the first time. And by the time that hour is over, there is an unbreakable bond and connection between me and that guest I knew nothing about.
Absolutely. Dora. So the reason why we're here, darling, I love, my passion is recovery. I've been in recovery for almost 12 years now.
Wow.
I just absolutely love to see somebody that thinks that they don't have it any other way and come into recovery and just grow and grow and grow and make friends and know that you don't have to drink or drug to have a good time.
That's right.
And I would love to have you share a little bit, a lot, a portion, anything that you want to talk about, my dear. I would love to hear.
All right. Well, for any of you that don't know me, my name is Dora, and I am a recovering alcoholic, addict, and codependent no more. And my soberversary is tomorrow, December 2nd, 2018. I will have 3 years clean and sober, which is a miracle.
You are a miracle, girl. I love it.
It is a miracle. I drank and drugged for 30 years. 30 years is a life sentence. It's a lifetime. I was living on my own by the time I was 15. I grew up in a very Christian and religious home in a very small town in the middle of nowhere. And I started drinking and I started rebelling, and I didn't like rules and I didn't like regulations. And by the time I was 15, I was living on my own. Wow. I had 2 baby girls before I could even walk in a bar and buy my own beer. So I was a teenage mother, 2 girls before I was 19. And I started self-medicating at a very early age. None of this I even knew until I started my recovery journey 3 years ago. I feel like a lot of my life was just running from chaos to chaos, just keep going and don't look back, So I drank and drugged for 30 years. And I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. Like, when I look back in hindsight, because of my recovery and because of the things I'm doing to work and improve my life, I can look back now and see these patterns that have developed over the course of my year and my drinking career. I call it a fucking career because it was 30 years.
That is a career.
I should get a pension for it, right?
If only.
Yeah. So I drank and drugged for 30 years. And I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, is that I'm going to say maybe for the first 15 years of my drinking. You know, it was fun. I drank to fit in. It was liquid courage. I became funny. I had a personality. I could say what was on my mind. People laughed at me. I loved to make people laugh, even if it was at my expense. I loved to get people together to do the, you know, bringing everybody together. And then, you know, there was a time where no matter how much I drank or partied, though, I would always be home, I'd say in the first quarter of my drinking career, you know, by about 2 or 3 in the morning. And then the next 10 years, it was like, as long as I was home before the sun came up. And in the last 10 years, I kid you not, I mean, I would stay awake for 4 or 5 days, watching the sun come up, watching it go down. I would drink and drug myself till a point that I actually was sober. And then I'd keep drinking. I would make myself vomit and start drinking right away. And I blacked out. I blacked out all the time. And I tried to control these blackouts with, you know, a different mixture of drugs. I did so much cocaine that it stopped working for me. It really did not even do anything for me. So, you know, I tried all this mixture of different drugs and alcohol to try and control my blackouts. And I wasn't talking about my blackouts. I was ashamed of them. You know, something internally I knew that wasn't right, you know, but I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want anybody to tell me I had a problem. So I didn't tell any of my friends what was going on, right? But I would literally cycle through, you know, I'd go out on a Friday night with a normal group of friends, go out to a bar, go to an after party. They'd give me a room in their house. They'd all go to sleep at 6 in the morning and I couldn't. I'd leave and I'd go to another bar that just opened at 6 in the morning. That was, you know, the shadiest of the shady of the shady. And I would surround myself.
The shadiest of the shady. How much oh my God, I'm laughing. I'm laughing because oh girl, I hear you. I know that feeling. It is crazy. I would be caught dead in him now. I don't know how I did it.
And you know what else is crazy is that
I wasn't even afraid at that time. I'm petrified now. When I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, what did I?
Yes, it scares me more now that I'm sober that I think about it, which is why I'm a miracle, because I'm lucky I didn't get killed or raped or murdered or cut up in pieces. Like, and another thing is that, you know, these places that I'd end up finding myself the next day at, you know, starting that 7 in the morning or whatever, during that time, those were my people, you know, and I couldn't tell you one of their names, but I knew them at that hour of the morning and where I find them at that disgusting bar. And those were my people. And a lot of them made me feel like I wasn't that bad because I could look down my nose at them and say, well, at least I'm not doing that, you know, at least I'm not that bad. That's the type of place I was hanging out in. It was, you know, making myself feel better. Just
lowering
absurd.
the bar.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally pushing the bar all the way down.
All the way down. And if somebody was a little bit up here, then I'd go with somebody that was even lower.
Yeah. And I somehow made myself feel a little bit better. But, you know, the truth is I would get so high and I would get so drunk that I would actually be scared to be alone. I was scared to go home because my thoughts were so negative and so dark that I didn't even trust myself to be alone. Like I didn't know if I'd kill myself. I didn't know if I'd end it or how. I was scared to be alone. I was drowning in depression, anxiety, and through this 30 years of drinking and drugging, if I could sum it all up for you, I would say that the 2 worst things in my experience were I always ended up in bad relationships and I always made horrible decisions when I drank and drugged. And that about sums up my whole drinking career. You know, I continually ended up in relationships with men that would end up abusing me. I continually ended up in relationships where now I know it's codependency, where I would, you know, keep trying to be a people pleaser and try harder and ignore the red flags and ignore the abuse because maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. If I did more, they'd have to love me. They'd have to appreciate me. And I've just got to do more. And, you know, I'd end up staying in these relationships that I should have probably left in the first week for years, and just trying to correct myself to be appreciated, to be respected. And towards the end of this 30-year drinking career, I was again in another horrible relationship. And the reason I got sober, which is a little different, but I always like to bring it up in case there's any woman or man out there that might be hearing my story, is I was in an abusive relationship. And when I got sober, this guy and I used to fight all the time. We lived together. We did a ton of drugs and a lot of drinking, a lot of alcohol. His drug of choice was crack, which I also started partaking in. And I wasn't socializing anymore. You know, it was him and I for 3 or 4 days. And I'd end up locking myself into a room, closing the doors, waiting for daylight so I could try and escape. I kept going back to this guy because my laptop would be broken. My phone would be broken. He'd call and say he owed me one. I'd be like, yeah, you do. And I'd end up finding myself back in this cycle of insanity. The last straw was that I finally had another fight with this guy. And I just said, I'm leaving. And it was 2:30 in the morning and I'm not coming back. He said, yeah, right. You'll be back. And I was like, no, I am not coming back. I tried talking to him about our relationship. And he said that, you know, there was nothing worth talking about. Our relationship was the least of importance in his mind or whatever. So I walked out with a carry-on bag and my little dog. And I got a hotel room at like 2:30 in the morning. I had been drinking for about 2 days at that time and drinking and high. Walked into this hotel room and I fell on the edge of the bed and cried out to a God I hadn't called out to in a long time. You know, I had this gift of desperation. And I said, God, help me stay away from this man. Help me get away from this relationship that's killing me. I knew it was killing me and I didn't have the backbone. I didn't have the strength to get out of it. I lost my friends. I lost my family connections. Nobody liked this guy. And I kept going back to him, you know, trying to correct, you know, I wasn't doing enough. If I did more, it would have to get better. You know, it had to be me. Because he was nice the first week we met, you know, why can't he go back to that? I now know that he's a complete psychopath, narcissist that was totally incapable of emotion and everything was a facade in a game. But I was tricked. I was duped and I kept hanging on to something that was never there. So the next morning when I woke up, of course, I blocked this guy from my phone again. I'm starting over. I'm 44 years old. Don't know where I'm going to end up. And the next day I got in a taxi. I live in Mexico and I got in a taxi closer to town to another hotel room. And in that taxi ride, I grabbed a beer. On the ride to town, I suddenly had this thought that I never had in my life before. Never in my life, Lori. I had this thought, maybe if I stop drinking and drugging, I'll find the strength I need to stay away from this man and this relationship that's going to kill me. And that was the last drink I ever had. I never went back to the guy. I never went back to him. And I, at this point, thought, you know, that I might have a drinking problem. I didn't know that I was an alcoholic at this moment, but that was what pushed me through the door, was that I finally correlated my decision-making and this relationship that was going to kill me, and that my decisions kept going back to the drugs and alcohol, because when I was sober, I knew I shouldn't be with him. When I was sober, I knew that I deserved better. But as soon as I had a couple drinks or got a little high, all of that thinking went out the window.
Yeah.
So that was the catalyst that started my recovery. And I got into a 12-step room 2 days later. Like I said, that was my last drink. And I never did go back to the guy. And you know what? It is exactly as that God shot thought I had. I did find the strength. And in this last 3 years, I have healed and grown in so many ways. You know, it's so much more than just not drinking and drugging. Not drinking and drugging is the start. But the life I have today, the healing, the growth, learning how to love myself. You know, I was always looking outside. I was always looking for people to validate me. I was filling myself with drugs and alcohol to get to a certain feeling, to feel okay or to not feel. And with not drinking and drugging and getting clean and sober, with getting a sponsor, with working the 12 steps, with surrounding myself with people that are also sober and also want to see me do good and approve of what I'm doing in the new life I'm living. Oh my God, girl, the sky's the limit.
Honest to God, honest to God. You know, you said something that I just wanted to touch on real quick. You said the first week that you were with the guy and he was nice. It's the same thing with drinking and doing drugs. That first week, and we just chase that. And it's
Exactly.
never, ever as good as that first week. And we
Never.
just keep chasing it and doing more and more and more and more. And I am so happy for you. I am
Oh,
so
thank you.
for you, honest to God. Because, you know, when I talk to somebody not in program, or if I talk to somebody not in recovery, they don't understand. They're like, oh, good for you. You know, and a few people that I did know in my drinking days, you know, they'll say, oh, good, you really needed it, you know.
Yeah.
But that feeling, that gift of desperation, and when you
Exactly.
just ask God, please help me because I can't do it.
Exactly.
That's exactly where I was. I could do anything. Don't tell me what to do. I got it. I'm fine if I just slow it down. If I do this, if I do that, if I just drink on weekends, the same
Control it.
story, you know, and we just try so hard, and not wanting to be alone was my biggest thing. I did not want to be alone. I didn't like me, Dora. So why did I
Yes.
want to be with me? So
Exactly. That's what I was saying about me not wanting to be alone with myself, which is
yeah,
why I would continue this
yeah,
drinking sprees for 5 days on an end, because I would be
yes.
so high. I didn't want to be alone with myself. I was scared of my own thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kept thinking, oh my God, you know, if I'm alone, I'm gonna die and I won't find my body for days. And
Right.
all these things that go through your head. And it's insanity.
It
It
is
is an
insanity.
insanity. And
It
I
is.
never, ever thought in my wildest dreams how great recovery is.
You know what I just wanted to say, Lori, is that this whole story that I just told you about how I started my recovery journey, and about this, you know, abusive relationship. I don't say that because I want people to say pity me or feel sorry
No,
for me or to play the
no,
victim role.
no.
I say that because that's part of my story. And if you are a woman out there that's watching or listening to this today, and you are in a similar circumstance, I mean, not drinking and drugging gave me the strength to stay away from this relationship. And that's something I had never thought about. And I had numerous relationships, the same kind with a different face on it, repeating over and over and over in my life. And not drinking and drugging was exactly what I needed to start loving and caring and respecting myself enough to not go back to a relationship like that. So, you know what? This guy didn't make me an alcoholic or addict.
No.
I was, and I had been for a very long time. But the story that I've just told you and why I tell you is that this is what I needed to wake up. And if that didn't happen to me, I'd still be out there drinking and drugging, thinking that I had everything under control. And I'd probably be in another relationship the same as I'd always been.
Same. Yep, the same one. The
So,
same
you
one.
know,
Yeah.
this is what it took for me to wake up. And thank God I woke up. Thank God I had that gift of desperation that you mentioned, the acronym GOD. Love it. Gift of
Yeah.
desperation.
Gift of desperation. Absolutely. Oh my God. I got all choked up because I swear I just love you, because it was like when you were saying, I'm like, oh my God, me too. And I think this is what's so great about this recovering out loud.
Yes.
I did not for a very long time. It was very private. I did not want to break any traditions in recovery. And,
Mhm.
you know, the more I recover out loud, the better I feel.
Exactly. You got it.
I'm getting into 12 years. This past year of me doing what I'm doing right now has
Mhm.
been one of the best years of my sobriety. I just
Oh,
feel
I believe it.
lighter. I feel more connected.
I
I
believe it.
feel a part of something much bigger than me. And I'm just like, I'm having such a great time, and I'm getting to meet people like you all over the place. And I'm like, yes, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all
Exactly.
about, is the connections, the
It
connections.
is the connection. And you know what? Myself, just like you, Lori, I have grown so much. I've been podcasting for a year and a half now. You know, I started it up in the pandemic as well. And I'm a single woman and it saved my ass. You know, it takes me about 10 hours per episode to do all the editing, to do all the promotions. So through the pandemic in serious lockdown, doing all this editing, meeting people, going through it, I constantly was in this recovery mode. And
Yes.
when I started this journey in the podcasting, you know, I really thought it was going to be a platform to share other people's stories. I didn't realize how healing it was also going to be for me. And like you were saying, you know, it has really been a way that I've been able to own my story more. You know, I let go of little pieces of me with every guest interview. I'm also talking and saying my piece and owning it. And, you know, I think a reason for many years that we stay in addiction and alcoholism, or at least in my case, is because of the shame, because I didn't
Yes.
talk about this shit.
Yeah,
And now
no, you're
talking
right.
about that same shit that I was ashamed of is what's actually given me healing and growth.
And I just love meeting you. This was
Oh, thank you.
now when I see you on Instagram, I get this.
Yes.
And I get to know you
You
more.
get the deeper connection.
The deeper connection. And I am
Aw.
forever grateful for this. And I know this is
Thank
going to
you.
help somebody, Dora, because
Oh, I
your
know.
story is one of many. And it's when I hear them in the rooms and they're not out in the open because they feel like there's a shame in it. And
Yes.
having this out in the open and letting people know that, you know what? Oh my God, I feel that too. Maybe I want to try.
Well,
I don't
and you know what's strange for me is that, you know, in this catalytic scenario where I stopped drinking, you know, that would have been in all of my years previous, the perfect time to go get shit faced for months on end. You know, I just walked out of a relationship. I left a house. I left a car. I left pretty much all my possessions in the world. And prior to that, I mean, alcohol and drugs was my solution.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to escape that. I wanted to numb that out. I wanted finally to breathe that I left this guy, but then also be so numb that, you know, just wait for a couple weeks or months to pass by.
I mean,
and I didn't.
It's crazy. So much to be grateful for. So much to be grateful.
So much. But that's the beginning, you know. I don't play that down too little because drinking and drugging is you know, it's an obsession. It is something like you said, it was your best friend. For me, yeah, it was always there. It was like, no matter how happy, mad, sad, angry, horny, lonely I was, I could always have a cigarette. I could always do a line. I could always have a drink, no matter what was going on. And, you know, taking that out of your life for somebody like myself that had a 30-year habit of doing those things, it is no easy task.
No.
It is just the start to uncovering a whole new life and a whole new purpose and a whole new beautiful chapter of life. But it's not easy. And what I hear often and that I love is that, you know, recovery and sobriety is not for people that need it. It's for people that want it. And it's not going to work until you want it. When you get so sick and tired of being sick and tired and you are done waking up with the hangover, you're done walking the walk of shame, the remorse, the where did I put my dog? Where's my food? Where's my car? Did I pay my bill? Who's the hell is that guy?
Who are you?
When you're done
I'll
with
call
that,
you tomorrow. No, you won't.
and you want better for yourself, recovery is for those that want it.
Absolutely. Well, my dear, I think you found your purpose.
Oh, thank you.
Honest
I believe
to
I'm
goodness.
just scratching the surface, and I'm so happy that you had me on the show, Lori.
Thank you
Pleasure.
so much, Dora. Thank you
my
so much.
sweetie.
I am so glad that we're on this path together. I
Yes.
feel that our friendship got a little deeper, and
Sure did.
I am just thrilled to have met you. Thank you
Me
so
too.
much.
Me too. Big hug, sweetie. And your big love.
Thank you so much, darling. I will talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.